just now tuning in, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and hit the bell. GMS fam, Green Room. Let's talk about it. GMS fam, the Green Room. What's going on, y'all, man? Happy Tuesday. This is a spontaneous show brought to you by the GMS show. As usual, we got some things we need to discuss. Something came across my timeline that I felt like was very important for us to see because, you know, we had this in particular person that I'm about to speak of. He decided he wanted to go and join the Breakfast Club one day for an interview, and we got some pretty bad representation from the Breakfast Club, specifically from Charlamagne the God. Now, I'm not trying to make this Charlamagne versus this person or trying to shit on Charlamagne, anything like that. I'm just pointing out the obvious of what happened. See, a lot of people ended up leaving that interview feeling like Larry Elder was the victor, and that what he had happened during that show was a lesson towards Black America, because equating Charlamagne's ideas to every black person in America, I guess, was more lucrative to use for their narrative than it was to actually speak about the facts. Now, if you don't know who Larry Elder is, Larry is a former, still maybe, I don't know, but it looks like he's former. It doesn't look like his party really messes with him like that. But he was running for president. And his whole thing during his campaigns and everything he's talking about, because he is Republican and because he is definitely one of those black individuals who needs white acceptance, he started going around talking about all the negative things about black people to try to help him win the presidential election, or just to even be somebody considered. Now, there, of course, are things that people say that you can agree with from time to time, but people's overall agendas is what you should pay attention to. And that's exactly why I wanted y'all to see this exchange between Van Lathan, his co-host Rachel Lindsay, and Larry Elder himself. Now, he joined their show to talk about all these things. One of the main things that Larry likes to drive home is that one of the major problems, the biggest problem in the black community, is fatherless homes. Now, I know you probably are like, well, you know, there has been this and that, and, you know, there are these cases. But as you get older, it seems like people run a certain narrative against black people, and then the rest of society runs with it as if this is something that only exists in the black community. We all know that fatherless homes is a problem between all races, but they love to use statistics and they love to try to manipulate things and try to make it seem like it's just a black problem. But the one thing this guy loves to do is look at every negative aspect. He likes to say that black people try to use the victim mentality. He does all the talking points of all your regular, white right-wing people who think of a certain way of black people. Now, here's what I like about this, because him and Charlamagne's back and forth was a little weird. And Charlamagne tried to hit him with one of his little viral moments. He got a viral moment, all right, but it wasn't the viral moment he was hoping. He thought he was going to ask Larry Elder a question and catch Larry Elder up on saying some weird shit, and it ended up turning around and biting Charlamagne in the ass. Now, for a person of Larry Elder's, I guess, what do you want to call it? Knowledge or whatever. I don't know how you want to put it. But Charlamagne isn't the right person that you lean on for these type of instances. So, with that said, I am going to take us over to this interview with Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay, where they speak to him. Now, the first thing you're going to see is Van. Now, their attitude, as you can see in this still picture here before I play the video, they look very content. They don't look like they're there to argue. They don't look like they're there to cause any problems. They're not there to look like they're trying to get clickbait or any other shit. They open it up as respectful as possible and ask him a very easy question, and it was very hard for him to answer it straight out, and I'm pretty sure you'll know why. Just listen to this.
Look, I expect that we're going to disagree on some things in this interview. So I wanted to start off with something I feel like the three of us can agree on, okay? Is that all three of us have a special love for black people, for black Americans. And
pay attention to his demeanor. I'm just letting y'all know, it's like that Roy Johnson nigga from Bishop Sycamore, you know what I'm saying? People that study body language and all that other shit, just pay attention to how certain things trigger him in certain ways. Now, when you see Van bring up a special love for black people, watch his mannerisms.
Okay. Is that all three of us have a special love for black people, for black Americans. I just want you to talk about that for a second. Why do you love black people?
Well, I love people, and I want people to be able to realize their God-given potential. And I think in the case of black people, a lot of black people are misled by so-called black leadership. I think we need to raise our game. I think a lot of black people mistakenly believe that we're being held back because of systemic racism, when in fact what's holding us back are things like lack of fathers in the home, poor urban schools because we don't have school choice. The lie that America remains systemically racist is also causing the cops to pull back. And as a result, we have more crime than we otherwise would have. So my goal is always to tell people that we're free, that people fought and died in order for us to be at this level where we are free. And we should take advantage of the freedoms that America has given us. And I think black people need to do that. And that's one of the things that I feel very strongly about. My father.
Now, notice that he skipped around the fact that he had a special love for black people specifically. Now, Van is going to have to ask him this question again a little bit slower, a little bit more in depth, and listen to his answer right after.
Did that answer why you love black people?
Yeah, I want to make sure, because I think sometimes.
I just said I love people, Jim.
But I know love people, but you're a black man. You talk a lot about your father and the experience that your father had, coming from Athens, Georgia, the things that he did to make it in America, and some of the obstacles that he overcame. And his story, while an American story, is also a specifically black American story. And so
That's right.
I'm just wondering, because I've also heard you say that you don't like being called the black face of white supremacy or what other people have called you. I've heard you say that. So right now, you do have a special love in your heart, a special cultural connection to black people. Do you or do you not?
Well, I am a black person. I was raised in South Central Los Angeles. My father was raised in the Jim Crow South. So obviously there's a special connection, a special experience, a special history. But in general, I love people. I'm a God-fearing person, and I want every single person to realize his or her God-given potential.
Anytime, it is very hard for somebody to just say yes or no. There's something else behind it. To me, that has just been the trend of things for humans, period. If you can't just simply say yes or no, well, there has to be something else behind it. Now, I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I just rather you see how he handles these situations because, see, Larry Elder is one of those people who has the notion, just like the Candace Owens and just like the Jason Whitlocks and all these different people who try to act like they want to help black people, but are really just talking points for their conservative white counterparts and peers. He thinks that all black people don't like him or that black people have an agenda to get him up out the paint or to make him look a certain way, when all you really have to do is let these type of people blow themselves up, which is going to happen in this interview when you see it. Now, at this part, Van asked him about what he feels is the biggest issues in America, and I want y'all to hear what he feels like the biggest issues in America is for black people.
See, I think right now is the coin toss. Why should people still listen to Larry Elder? Real simple. I've got the same kind of America First, Make America Great Again agenda that Donald Trump has, but I'm bringing forth some issues that I believe our side is not talking enough about, if at all. Number one, I feel the most important pressing domestic problem in America is the epidemic of fatherlessness. It is particularly acute in the black community, where nearly 70% of black kids now enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother. And nobody, not Republicans, not Democrats, are talking about this. The other big thing that I am bringing to the table is a need for an amendment to the Constitution to fix spending to a certain percentage of the GDP. Otherwise, government gets bigger and bigger, whether Republicans are in charge or Democrats are in charge, largely because what's driving the budget for the most part are the so-called entitlements programs that even Bill Clinton and Barack Obama referred to as unsustainable. But if you're a politician and you run promising to reform Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid, you will lose elections because the other side will accuse you of not caring about the sick, the poor, the elderly. So the only way to make these kinds of reforms and true cuts is with a law that forces the politicians to do it. The other big thing I talk about is the lie that America remains systemically racist. It's not only a lie that Democrats push in order to get black people scared so they vote Democrat, it's getting people killed. It's called the Ferguson effect or the George Floyd effect. And that's a phenomenon of cops pulling back in every major city. And as a result, there are thousands of people who are dead in the last 2 years who otherwise would not have been killed if the police had been doing their normal proactive policing. And finally,
Wait, which is crazy because when you think about it, because people had the notion, and this is what he's not trying to say, because people have the thought and have raised the hashtag defund police, police officers have decided to pull back from doing their job. Instead of calling out the police, it's a black problem. Instead of holding the police accountable for having to do their job, you name these as one of the problems that is caused by what black people have done or what society or what America or what the left is doing. The George Floyd effect. How is that a George Floyd effect? This is a police effect. George Floyd didn't just get on TV and pass the fuck out and die and then say it was the police and everybody start looking around like, oh, it had to be the police. What happened to George Floyd was direct from the police department here in Minneapolis. So to say that it's the George Floyd effect is something that is to trigger the people on your side because you know how much they hate George Floyd for how much people kept saying his name and kept putting him out there as an example of why we need to defund the police, have different regulations for police, we have to vet police. Just the thought of having to be accountable for your actions made people twist shit and turn it into, oh, George Floyd was this and he was a drug addict. Like, why? First of all, why does that matter when it came to the fact that the police were wrong in this instance? They were wrong. A cop is facing consequences in prison as we speak for the murder of George Floyd. Anything else that's being said about it is whatever. But it's people like Larry Elder that put this in the atmosphere because it's a great talking point for his party. Now, you hear how he talked about also systemic racism being something that's basically a lie. He said systemic racism is a lie, right? Here he is going to try to explain why systemic racism is a lie.
By a large degree, if we're talking about a percentage or proportionate number of people who are low income, then obviously we both know that that's not true. So when you say that there are more poor white people in America than there are more poor black people, then we only make up 13% of the population. But if we're talking about numbers and percentages, and whether it be in unemployment, whether it be in poverty, black people disproportionately represent those numbers. If the playing field is completely equal and all the opportunity is there for everyone, I'm simply asking you, why aren't we doing as well as our white counterparts?
Why aren't we doing as well as our white counterparts? Because white people haven't stood still. Black people come out of slavery at the end of the Civil War. White people were ahead. White people are ahead right now. The only way for black people to, quote, catch up is for white people to stand still. They're not standing still. But are black people making progress? Hell yes. 1940, 87% of black people lived under the poverty line. 20 years later, 1960, that number had fallen to 47. That's a 40-point drop in 20 years. That is, by the way, the greatest 20-year period of economic expansion in the history of Black America. Now, why did that happen? Because it was rare in 1940 for a black kid to be raised without a father in the home, married to the mother. Only 17% of black kids fit that category. Today, it's almost 70% of black kids entering the world without a father in the home, married to the mother. That accounts for far more of the disparity than any kind of racial incident or racial analysis that you want to put forth. That's what the problem is. We began doing very well until the so-called war on poverty in the mid-60s. Lyndon Johnson launched it, I believe, with the best of intentions. But since then, we've incentivized women to marry the government. We've incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. Numbers of black people entering the world without a father in the home has now been almost triple from what it was in the mid-60s. And by the way, it's also true among white households. It's almost tripled since.
You know what's crazy? The fact that he doesn't understand that comes from specific systemic actions made by the government. A lot of that has to do with that. Black people didn't just wake up one day and decide, hey, we don't want to be there for our families. What happened? Like, that's the thing. Larry Elder can talk about this all day and say what it was, but he will not tell you how it got to that point. He can't explain that. He literally can't explain that.
It was in the mid-60s. You give people an incentive to behave in a certain kind of way where they become dependent upon government, you're going to have more of that kind of behavior. So the policies that many people have pursued have hurt black people in the last several generations.
Larry, according to that example that you just gave about white people not staying still and black people having to basically catch up, if that's the case, according to your example, we'll never catch up.
Well, collectively, probably not. But individually, can individuals do well? Of course. If you go to school, don't have a kid before you're 20 years old, get married first, get a job. Excuse me?
No, go ahead, finish. We're listening to you.
Is there a problem?
No.
Just keep going.
No, Larry, we're listening to you. Go for it. Get your shit off.
According to the Brookings Institution, which is a left-wing think tank, they've got something, a millennial success sequence. Finish school, don't have a kid before you're 20, get married first, get a job, keep a job, don't quit it till you get another job, avoid the criminal justice system, you will not be poor. If you don't follow that formula, there's a very good chance.
My man said, avoid the criminal justice system, but there's actual evidence of systemic racism in the justice system. You know, the system that we call the justice system, how black people are disproportionately more locked up and harassed by police, how we have the most overturned convictions that people are released from prison for crimes they did not commit. That doesn't sound systemic to you, Mr. Elder? You just think black people woke up one day and decided they wanted to be criminals as well?
Why is that so shocking, Rachel?
No, she's not. I don't think she's shocked. Larry, I know you want to fight, but like for us, like we're because listen.
No, you don't know that I want to fight. I'm answering your question.
Hey, Larry, brother, and we all brothers.
I'm answering your question. You're proceeding it.
Right. But we're just trying to understand you. So okay, cool. So we disagree about some of the numbers and the things that you've thrown out. Okay,
what number do you disagree with? What have I said that you?
I disagree with the fact. That the Democrats or Lyndon B. Johnson said, "Hey, we're going to incentivize poverty," and black people just went, "We don't want our families anymore." And not only do I disagree.
Is that what I said? He said.
Well. What you said with
the best of intentions.
With the best of intentions, right? With the best of intentions, he tried to help, and then we said, okay, well, since the government's going to be our dad, then we don't want our dads in the homes anymore. We don't want a family anymore. I disagree with that, okay? And so this is what I believe.
Did I say black people don't want a family?
So, but you're insinuating.
Did I say black people don't want a family? Yes, that's what you're saying. Because if you can't come up with an explanation as to why that happened or how that started, then that's exactly what you're saying.
What I said was we gave these incentives.
I know, but Larry,
same disincentive that whites have followed as well.
I know, but Larry, what I'm saying is,
what I said. Okay, just accurately describe what I said.
I know. So what I'm saying is, I'll put it like this: when the notion is that, hey, the government came through with a program, and then black men en masse left their homes, and black women decided that we are not going to have men in the home in large portions and in part and parcel all over the country because we want money from the government. That makes it seem like, hold on for a second. Hold on, I know what you're going to say. That makes
one thing you're going to notice from this interview as well is that Larry, as a typical politician, when somebody is making a great point, he wants to interject right there at a point where he knows that he can try to fuck them up in their sentence or their words or wherever the case may be so that they won't make their point off. Pay attention.
It seems
no, you don't know what I'm going to say, Van. In fact,
I do.
Since you know what I'm going to say, why don't you just have the interview by yourself without me sitting here? Since you know what
that actually would be fine.
But look, you have no idea what I'm going to say.
But look, so that to me says, hey, the black people made the decision either intentionally or subconsciously to forego family in order to bring the government into their household. I'm deducing that from what you're saying. Now, this is what I believe happened. Larry. I believe coming out of slavery into Reconstruction, black Americans did what they were supposed to do. They went out and bought large tracts of land everywhere. In the 1910s in this country, black people owned more land than they do now. They attempted to do America in the way that America said that it should be done. They opened up banks. They opened up schools. They had hospitals all over the place. And through two things, both of them systemic, one of them just outwardly violent and racist, white terrorism and usury being in the form of contract buying schemes, other intellectual ways to defraud people out of their homes and out of their land, heirs property rights, all of those things, wealth was taken from black America. I've heard you talk about before Tulsa, right? And how Tulsa actually became known as Black Wall Street after it was burned down. That's a very astute point, right? It wasn't until after it was burned to the ground that it became known as Black Wall Street because the black people there rebuilt. What you don't talk about, and what a lot of people don't talk about, is that after Tulsa was rebuilt, years after that, and they were thriving and they were doing well, that urban renewal came through and plowed a highway through Greenwood and effectively ended that black hub of wealth that the people had persevered and had for themselves. And urban renewal, something that has gone on all over this country, has particularly and disproportionately affected black home ownership, which is a key wealth building tool. And it's also displaced a lot of black people. So I do feel like in, I guess, your analysis of what's gone on with black people and with the history of us in this country, you do fixate on what you feel like we're doing wrong, which I think is a very important conversation to have. And I don't think anyone that wants better for black people would be against having that conversation. And there doesn't seem to be the willingness to have an open and honest dialogue about the challenges that we face. And to me, I think that's what the disservice is. I think I'm not gonna look at you and say, hey, we don't need to have a conversation about some of the things that go on in our community, and we don't need to have a conversation about some of the expectations that we should be having amongst each others in our community. But I think the problem is that you do these things in a vacuum without acknowledging like really obvious realities about the Black experience, and I'm just wondering why you do that.
Now, reading somebody like a book is exactly like something that Van Lathan is really good at. And just to give you more insight on how his mentality works, like I said, he's a politician. He is somebody that will use people for their own gain and then try to act like he's doing it out of the kindness of his heart or that he actually cares. He doesn't care. He's just making it a good point. Now, it seems very convenient that Larry Elder spoke on systemic racism not being a problem for Black people, right? Let me know if this is the same Larry Elder or a clone that was on the Breakfast Club who sat there and actually broke down systemic problems for Black people specifically. But the fact that he broke it down this way is because he wanted to shit on Joe Biden, while also not realizing that he is admitting to something he's trying to say doesn't exist. Listen to this.
Biden, who, when he first got into the Senate, hung out with segregationists, talked about how well he got along with them, talked about how he didn't want integration because of a jungle. This guy has made all sorts of insulting things to Black people, and his policies right now are hurting Black people. Inflation hurts the people at the bottom more than anything else.
Sounds like a systemic thing, huh? Inflation. Sounds like, okay.
More than anything else, letting a bunch of illegal aliens into the border are hurting Black people more than anybody else, as I said earlier. He's opposed to school.
Open borders, something that the government is allowing, sounds pretty systemic to me.
Choice when he has his own kids in private school, and we lost a year, almost 2 years of in-school education in California because of COVID that he supported.
Oh, he brings up the schools. Huh. School systems. Ha! Oh, okay.
I mean, this guy has done monstrous things to Black people, and then for him to come in here and tell you how you ought to think as a Black person, it blew my mind.
So everything he named that was harmful towards Black people that currently Biden is apparently contributing to in the White House, does that not sound like systemic racism to you? Does that not sound like you're systemically holding Black people back? I don't know. That's just me. But then again, we are talking about somebody who only uses these as talking points to try to coddle the balls of conservatives and needing the acceptance of white people, which is why you heard him not actually admit that he has a special love or just that he loves Black people, period. It was very hard for him to say that he loves Black people. He can't do that because that would mess up what he has going on. See, the people on his side, the majority of people on that side, white people specifically, they get bothered by Black people being confident and loving themselves. Think about that. That is why they can use the Black Lives Matter organization as an immediate dismissal for the humanity of Black lives mattering. I can't tell you how many people I know that yell Black Lives Matter that has nothing to do with the fucking organization, but yet they use that because it's easy to use that to dismiss Black lives. Keep up with me. The people over there with Larry Elder, he has to protect his demographic. That demographic does not like when Black people feel good. So if he was to say, I love Black people, then you're going to see a lot of people on his side go at him saying, oh, Larry Elder was forced to say he stooped down to the left's level. And all he simply said was, yeah, I love Black people. Does that mean that he has to disregard the things that he's been saying or his policies that he's been pushing and the ideas and the narratives that he's been pushing along about black people? No. But the fact that he couldn't simply say that says way more about him than it does the people he's talking about. Now, Larry Elder, he attaches himself to white supremacist ideology. And one of those things has to do with trying to put black people in check who disagree with him. Some like the put you in your place era, if you know what I mean. Now, he went into full troll mode and started saying a bunch of things that Van and Rachel never said during this interview because he started losing the argument. Now, he's going to start bringing up things that these two never said the entire time. But because he's so used to these talking points being thrown at him on social media or probably in public by other black people, he just chalks it up to this is how they feel. So not only is he putting words in their mouth, but he is minimizing Van and Rachel's intelligence by doing this. Watch.
In the situation when you talk about people who are unbanked to where they're now behind the 8 ball financially because they don't have access to the same services. All of these things are realities. I'm not saying, Larry, that what you're saying has no merit. I'm saying that you are for some reason choosing to only dip your toe into the issues that face Black America and then turn around with the narrative that pleases white American power. And I'm wondering why you're doing it.
I'm getting a headache, man. Can I say something? Thank you. One more time. Black people are not victims anymore. It is now 2023.
We never were.
Get an education, finish high school, don't have a kid before you're 20 years old, get married first, get a job, keep a job, don't quit it till you get another job, avoid the criminal justice system. You will not be poor. That is the formula for success in America. That's the formula you ought to be telling people instead of telling people that you are a victim, which is what you are talking about. You and our friend here, Rachel, have been basically saying, woe with Black people, we're oppressed, and it's nonsense. We're not oppressed.
They never, and I actually mean this. If you watch this entire interview, the entire hour and 35 minutes and 19 seconds, neither Van or Rachel said that Black people were oppressed and that they were victims and that they should live in victimhood or any of that. Any of that. They never said that at all. As a matter of fact, Van had to repeat several times that he is not a victim. Yet, for some reason, this politician
work hard, get an education, make sure that
also for a Black person to sit here and say this as if he does, like, Larry Elder knows. It's like, let's not play. Larry Elder knows what America is like. It's just more lucrative for him to live this way because he found a pocket where he can actually gain some type of success in life. Trust me, I'm not fooled by this act. It's just very puzzling as to why he would die on this hill or love to be this person in life and let that be his legacy. I don't know why, but I mean, everybody's different, I guess. But it's crazy how he started saying this as a Black man, that all you need to do is this, and this, and you will be okay. While also acknowledging that racism is real. Interesting. Now watch how he goes into full troll mode because he's losing the argument.
Don't get involved in the criminal justice system. You will not be poor. That is a message we ought to be sending Black people. But that's not what I'm hearing from you. What I'm hearing from you is, oh my God, Black people can't get along. False. Oh my God, Black people are oppressed. False. Oh my God, Black people were discriminated against and we remain discriminated against. False. Oh my God, there are disparities, therefore it must be systemic racism. False. I don't accept that at all.
I think, Larry, what becomes frustrating is that there seems to, and I think this is what Van is saying, that you
also
don't
notice how hype he is and notice how calm they are. They're exposing how bothered he is by the fact that they are presenting him with things that are actually making him think and actually making him have to answer to shit that he doesn't normally have to, because all you have to do as a Republican candidate is spew out talking points so you can help yourself win.
Accept challenges or like the reality of what's happening in 2023. You say the systemic racism existed at a time, but you act as if, wait, I'll let you talk. You act as if it doesn't exist today. And when you talk about
what is the reality that exists today? Tell me what it is.
Okay, when you talk about
now, pay attention. I'm sorry I'm stopping it again, but there's an important part of this video that I want you to remain close to. You see how he wanted her to explain herself? He wanted her to give him an answer as to what she was talking about. And she's about to do it. But a little later, you're going to see that she asked him a very simple question and he could not for the life of him answer it. So he deflected so fucking hard that it made him look like a goddamn idiot. But just before that, I'm going to show you this.
We were talking about home ownership and loans and how there's this disparity when it comes to white people and minorities. You talk about a case in 1995. If you just look at today, there's currently a huge settlement, the largest ever, with City National Bank for discriminating against Black people when it comes to redlining and cutting them out of homes and giving them loans. You look at Wells Fargo, they're about to settle a huge suit right now with Black people because they were denying them lower interest rates and weren't allowing them to refinance their mortgages while they were allowing or loans, and they were allowing white people to do that. That's 2023. Both of those examples are 2023. It's still happening. Those disparities exist because it happened back in the day, but it's still happening in 2023. If it wasn't, why are they settling?
Oh, you settle for all sorts of reasons. You settle because you don't want the bad PR. You settle because it's less expensive than litigating the matter.
Or because it's true.
Or, yeah.
When you don't want the discovery to come out and everyone to find out.
Why is
So it's funny when Larry can bring up his statistics about Black families and Black children and fatherhood and fathers in the family and all this shit that's against Black people or a negative aspect of Black people. But when somebody brings you the statistics, it's, well, it could have been anything. I mean, it didn't have to be the fact that it's true that there's actual systemic racism and people actually being denied loans as Black people, even though they're qualified to get the loan. Maybe it's because they don't want the bad PR. Maybe. So you can come up with every other excuse as to why this is happening, but you want people to take what you're saying as fact and take it for what it is from the same people. Incredible.
Is it when banks make their profit by lending money to creditworthy people? Why would I not want to lend money to a creditworthy person? A, and B, if it's true, why then are community banks doing so poorly, as Van just now said? Given the fact that there are all these creditworthy Black people who could get loans, who aren't getting loans because the man doesn't want to give them a loan, why then aren't Black community banks thriving? Seems to me that there's a huge market for it. Why aren't they thriving?
The capital hasn't been made available to Black people. We need better. Let me ask you a question. Larry, you talk about education. Larry.
No, you didn't answer my question.
Larry, Larry, you got it. You got it. So score one for you, Larry. Let me ask you a question. You talk about education.
And by the way, the reason for the recession that we had in 2006, 2007, 2008.
You're going to blame that on Black people.
Is because of this lie that banks were not lending to creditworthy people. People like Bill Clinton put teeth in the Community Reinvestment Act and basically punished banks who were not lending in ways that they thought they ought to lend. And as a result, the whole lending criteria for banks essentially went away. You could fog up a mirror, you got a loan. Between 2010 and 2013, Black net worth fell almost a third. Why? Because a lot of Black people had loans, got homes that they couldn't afford because of all the pressure put on banks to lend to people that were, quote, non-traditional borrowers. And it ended up hurting the very people that people on the left wanted to help. So it didn't help anybody by changing the standards.
So this is a good example of a fundamental difference that we would have. And I'm taking everything that you're saying in good faith. But you're entitled
to a different opinion. You're entitled to different facts. It is a
right,
fact.
but I'm not giving you different facts.
Ooh, what a strategic move by a professional bullshitter to say that you're arguing different facts as if Van isn't looking at the same goddamn internet as Larry Elder is insane. He thinks that Van is just sitting there talking out of his ass. Van is literally reading off statistics and numbers of things that completely contradict exactly what Larry Elder is talking about.
So 30%.
No, I'm not giving you different
people
facts.
got homes that they shouldn't have gotten, had their criteria not changed. It is the fact that black people.
All of America was responsible for the financial crisis. But listen, if you ask me,
so therefore that's it.
But look, Larry, let me finish. Larry, this is important. Larry, this is important. This is important.
Something called the Commission on the Financial Crisis. I urge you to read the report and read the one that was filed by Republicans.
Larry,
and they talk about housing.
This is important.
All because of these social reasons, and it hurt the very people that black people.
Larry, this is important. This is important.
He's glitching as a politician. When you're losing the argument, now all you know how to do is spew out the talking points that you've already had loaded up in your head because you need to desperately win this debate.
What I said was important too.
It is. I receive it, Larry. But what I would say is this.
I'm not sure you did.
I do. I've heard, by the way, just to be honest with you, like, I understand the point of view that people want to say. I understand the point of view that people say that risky borrowers and non-traditional customers were responsible for the financial crisis. I understand that. I've heard that point of view. I look at that a different way. I look at that as predatory practices, CDOs, rating systems, and playing with actual money that began in the 70s, right? And then persisted on throughout until the 90s. Being able to mortgage-backed securities and how you take a mortgage-backed security and then put that out there to make that in a way. You don't want to hear this. Hold on, wait, hold on. You don't want to hear this. The reason why you don't want to hear this is because I feel like sometimes. Hold on. I feel like sometimes
I don't want to hear it is because it's not true.
I feel like sometimes on the right, you guys want it both ways. You say that it's both that the strength of America is in the average ordinary American and their earning, but also when America fails, it's not because people who want to buy houses were told that they could buy houses by people who knew that they couldn't buy them, number one, and then number two, played with money in a way to create a new form of security so that they can then go trade it on the market, right, and make untold sums of money, that on top of the regulatory capture that existed when those same people at Goldman Sachs and all of those other places who have been put in charge of the Treasury, who had so much influence over the Fed, then turn around and bailed out all of their friends and let.
You can tell Larry had no idea Van knew all this shit.
The American people, that you say and the Republicans say are the lifeblood of this country, left them holding the bag, right? And then left them holding the bag, and then you want to.
You see, Van's making a great point right now. And here comes Larry Elder. Let me know when you're finished so I can make my point. Let me know when you're finished. You're not listening to what he's saying. You're refusing to listen to what he's saying because he's making sense and there's logic in that.
Come around and say it wasn't the system of credit ratings and the bogus credit ratings. I mean, people lost their entire pensions in that. People lost all of their money in that. It's not Kenneth Lay and Enron from before. It's not all.
He's done when he's done, you big four-headed bass mouth bitch.
All of those other people, it is the American who wanted to buy a home and was told that they could buy a home by greedy banks and funds and all of those. It's their fault. And then not only is it not their fault, it's the black Americans' fault. We can agree to disagree there because I want to ask you one more thing. We can agree to disagree.
Now, let me show y'all something. Van asked this man a very important question. A very important question. Matter of fact, he's going to get a couple very important questions towards the end of this that I want you to hear. But first, let's get Van's question first. Then we're going to get the most important question that was asked of the night by Miss Rachel Lindsay here. And y'all see how you react to this.
Out to Walter Williams and Thomas Sowell, who say the opposite.
Okay, cool. You say that CRT, DEI cults are increasing and not decreasing racial tension in America. What do you feel like would decrease racial tension in America?
If people recognize that they're not victims, they're not entitled to things like reparations because of things that happened to other people didn't happen to them. If people like Barack Obama, when he got elected, had followed through on what I think people thought he was going to follow through on, which was to be a healer as opposed to somebody who picked up the race card and played the race card time and time again during the 8 years he was president. For example, when Barack Obama ran,
I don't care. Whatever you think of Obama is cool. I'm not the biggest fan of politicians all overall. But to think that Obama wasn't getting the craziest racist response after becoming president is insane. To be like, yo, he was using the race card. He didn't have to use the race card. He was a literal black president in America. He didn't have to play a card at all. Niggas walk down the street. Regular, everyday individuals can walk down the street and experience racism. What you think a black president experienced? He didn't have to use a race card. That's just a fact.
He was in the primary. He was being interviewed on 60 Minutes. And Steve Croft, the correspondent, asked him, Senator, if you don't win, will it be because of race? And Senator Obama said, no. If I don't win, it will be because I've not articulated a vision that the American people can embrace. Before he became president, he gave a speech at a historical black church. And he said that the Moses generation, referring to the generation of MLK, has, quote, gotten us 90% of the way there, close quote. He said, my generation, the Joshua generation, has to get us an additional 10%, which I thought was accurate. He fast forward, becomes president, and he says racism is in America's DNA. He says that if I had a son...
It's a fact. Racism in America is older than America. That's a fact.
He said if I had a son, he looked like Trayvon. He said the Cambridge police acted stupidly. He embraced Black Lives Matter. His Attorney General, Eric Holder, called voter ID an example of pernicious racism. He had Al Sharpton, one of the biggest race hustlers in America, in the White House over 70 times. So that...
To count how many times Al Sharpton was in the White House while President Obama was president is such a racist white thing to do. Like, think about that. Once again, it doesn't matter how you feel about these people. These little intricate details that he's putting out here is like the special formula for politicians in their political parties and the people that follow them and try to trust and believe in them. These little weird shits. Now, I want y'all to pay attention to this because Van hit him with some shit that he could not get out of, and he was finding excuses. This was like the backtrack of a century. So as you notice, when he asked him that question, he talked about how Obama did these interviews and said this and said that, and he was holding Obama to a certain standard, not as a black man, but as a president. Because, you know, he didn't like him playing a race card. He didn't like him doing this or saying these things about race and how racism is in America's DNA. He was looking at Obama as the president, right? So you hold the president to a certain standard. Now watch what happens when Van Lathan brings up his daddy, AKA President Donald Trump. When he brings up Trump, this man loses his fucking mind. And I don't know why, because it was the perfect example to what he was talking about. Now watch how Van uses the same formula, the same exact point as Larry, and watch how he deflects.
When he left office, both blacks and whites thought race relations got worse. When he entered office, blacks and whites thought race relations would get better. He played the race card time and time and time again and made things worse. And as a result, a lot of black people are behaving like victims rather than victors, which is what we really are.
Okay.
Now before I play this, pay attention to that. He said because of how Obama dealt with race, it made a victim mentality and it made people do X, Y, and Z. Now, Van is going to bring up Donald Trump and something he said in one of his interviews and how he responded to erratic racism at the acknowledgement of David Duke and how he played that off. Now, if Obama can say these few things in interviews and in public speakings and make an entire group of people have a victimhood, what do you think a president that's not going to denounce or play off a whole Klansman grand wizard is going to make the entire white community feel, or the entire racist white community feel? How about that? Let's make it better. Let's say the entire racist white community feel. How do you think that's going to be a react? What do you think the reaction is going to be from them? You are going to see how Larry reacts to this reverse. Watch.
Last thing I'll say.
Reverse Uno card. Bow.
Just real quick. There's another interview that I remember before an election, and it was from, you love Donald Trump, I'm assuming. And so you big fan of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, during an interview, was asked about David Duke. We talk about presidents and interviews that they did before they were president. Now, Larry, I know that you and I both know, because we're smart.
Finish your point. He was asked about David Duke, meaning what?
He was asked about the fact that he was asked about the fact that David Duke supported him. Okay, that David Duke said that he supported Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, hold on real quick. When we talk about race.
Rejected his support. Remember that?
Okay. No.
By the way, the imperial plan in California.
See what you're doing? Bro, you're so anxious to defend Donald Trump, you won't even let me finish. Donald Trump was asked about David Duke, and what Donald Trump says, I don't know him, I don't know who that is.
That's right. So therefore what?
Motherfucker, we know that Donald Trump knows who David Duke is. Hold on, wait, no, Larry, we know for certain.
Now, do you see how he put words in Van's mouth? As soon as Van he wasn't even done saying what he was saying. He didn't even mention that Donald Trump was a racist because of how he responded to David Duke. This nigga immediately started saying, so that makes Donald Trump a racist because he did this? Well, David, just listen to the deflection.
We know for certain that Donald Trump knows who David Duke is. We know for certain because Donald Trump has insulted. Well, wait, stop.
Donald Trump was the best one in history.
Stop. Hold on. Wait a second. See, Larry. We know for certain that he knows who he is because he has dissed. Hold on, wait, Larry, let me finish. Larry,
do you hear all that slurping?
Larry.
He is deep gargling Donald Trump's nuts in this entire, bro.
Larry, it's a whole Calvin Candy situation here. Let me finish. We know for certain because he had
what a ridiculous thing to say.
We had dissed David. He had dissed David Duke in the past. He had insulted him. We know. Wait, Larry, just let me finish. Larry, please. Larry.
So the peg you're hanging your Donald Trump as a racist hat on
Larry,
is one time
I'm not saying, Larry,
he said
Larry,
he didn't
listen,
know
Larry,
probably has a seat in the Oval Office, right?
Larry.
What a silly thing to say, Van. That's all you got?
Larry, Larry, you talked about.
But you're not asking me anything. You're making a diatribe against Donald Trump.
I'm not making a diatribe.
Therefore, I'm a bad guy because I support Donald Trump.
Larry, you can support whoever you want. Larry, I couldn't care less.
When his white zaddy is being tested, you see how he got defensive as if he was that man's woman? You see how he was talking as if he was giving Donald Trump his cheeks? He wouldn't even let Van get his point across because he knew that point would completely destroy his analysis on Barack Obama and the shit he said about Barack in his past interviews and his expectations to do certain shit as a president, but saw so easily to write off the other shit that Donald Trump did. First of all, the one time he said this about, no, it wasn't the one time. Donald Trump has continuously downplayed racism. And to be honest, I don't expect a old ass white man to give a damn about racism. So it wasn't surprising to me. But to sit there and act like this wasn't a good point was crazy. Now hold on. We have to get to Rachel's ether. Rachel entered this because, like I said, Larry has spoken immensely about fatherless homes and different things going on in the black community and what black people can do to be better or to get better in society, not play the victimhood, all this shit. The one thing that people like Larry Elder, people like Candace Owens, people like Jason Whitlock, all these far-right black conservative individuals with a platform, they all have one thing in common. They don't do anything to try to prevent or to try to help the community, to actually help. They only make platforms so that they can get revenue and get what they want out of the situation. It's beneficial to them financially, and they become celebrities from it. Not one of them can actually sit and tell you what they've done, and you're about to get the perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about. Pay attention.
And that there's this epidemic in the black community of fatherlessness. And excuse me if I've missed it, but to date, what have you done to combat fatherlessness in the black community?
Okay, so you're accepting that we have an issue with fatherlessness in the black community. You're accepting that, I assume.
Actually, don't. But
I'm
go ahead.
not. You said that.
I didn't
think
so. So you're not accepting it, and you're asking me, what am I doing about something that you
well,
don't
no,
accept?
no, you're my question is clear as day. You say that it exists. You say that this exists. I'm acknowledging that. I'm acknowledging your statement.
You just said you weren't acknowledging it. So now you're acknowledging it.
No, I said I don't agree with it. I'm acknowledging what you have said. You have said that there's this epidemic. So the question is, what have you done?
You don't agree that there is. I just want to understand what the question is, Rachel. So you don't agree that this epidemic.
I'll say it.
But you want to know what Larry would do about something that you don't think exists.
I'm not going back. I'm asking you a very clear question, not even long-winded. The question is, what have you done? What have you done?
What have I done to address a problem that you don't think exists?
Do you not want to answer? You don't have to answer, because I think that's the answer. Is that have you not done anything to combat fatherlessness?
You just now acknowledged, in your opinion, that what I just now said is even a problem.
It's
and now you're asking me,
what have you done? Have you done anything?
That's a problem that you don't think is a problem.
Larry, we gotta go.
Larry,
how in the fuck does it matter if she believes it or not? You think it's a problem. You are the politician. You are the nigga that's running for president. She asked you, how are you combating this? And you're saying, well, because you don't believe it's a thing, I don't have to. What? What? Because she doesn't believe that it is something that is a problem, you can't answer the question as to what you're doing to combat it? Oh my God.
Hold on.
I'll take that as a no.
Yeah,
I'll take that as a no. That's a very simple question.
Larry, tell him where to go. LarryElder.com. No, we gotta go, Larry. You don't like we can't do that now. You gotta at least. That's the woman in the house. You gotta at least. I'm not.
And now you want me to do. To answer
Larry,
it's your campaign, Larry. Larry, this is your campaign. Your campaign is about fatherlessness. I'm giving you the floor to talk about how you have combat fatherlessness because you say it is such an issue in this country and you don't want to answer the question.
I'm happy to answer the question, provided that you acknowledge that there is a problem.
Larry, get the fuck out of here. That's
Larry, get the fuck out of here. I was waiting for that the entire time. I was just waiting for Van to be like, Larry, get the fuck out of here. Like, how are you making that a stipulation? I'm going to give you a reason, or I'm going to give you an example. First of all, that's how you know it is not important to him what's going on in the black community, because you simply cannot answer what it is that you're doing to help combat what is going on with the problems that you are trying to drive home to your mostly white supporters. Think about that. That is insane. Now, Van got under his skin a little bit. And I'm going to show you what happened. And within that happening, Larry actually ends up answering the question as to what he's doing to help combat fatherless homes. Now, I just want to give you full disclaimer. It wasn't the actual answer, but you're going to hear it anyway.
Every single day, taught me his business, taught me the value of hard work, taught me the value of responsibility, of protecting your family, taught me the how to stand in my truth when I'm talking to someone. I revere my father. I wish everybody had one just like him. Once again, I am looking at this problem in the way that I feel it actually exists. We can actually, we can, hold on. I don't want you to respond to me.
Let me know when I can respond.
I don't want you to respond to me. I want you to respond to the question.
You don't want me to respond to what you just now said?
Larry,
I don't get to respond to it?
I want you to respond to the question that my co-host asked you.
I am going to respond.
Thank you. Don't talk to me. Talk to Rachel. It's Rachel's question.
I'm talking to both of you. A young black man.
Now here is his response to how he's this is the question. How are you combating the problem of fatherless homes in the black community? Here's his answer.
10 to 43 is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a young white man, same demo. The number one cause of preventable death for a young white man 19 years and under is accidents, like car accidents or drownings or drug overdoses. The number one cause for death, preventable death for a young black man 19 years and younger is homicide, almost always at the hands of another 19-year-old black man and under. Blacks account for 60% of the homicides, the shootings, and the robberies in America. Now, I'm sure that neither of you is prepared to say that black people are genetically inclined to commit more crime. And if you're not going to say that, and I hope you're not, then if it isn't fatherlessness, if it isn't the absence of a father married to the mother in the home, please tell me what it is that causes these stats.
Would you like me to answer that question?
I will answer it right now. The question.
That also wasn't the answer to the question. He did not answer the question. He just spewed out more statistics to try to make it seem like his point on why black people act the way that they do or why they are the way that they are is because of fatherless homes. He didn't say anything about what to combat it with or anything like that. Matter of fact, he didn't even say what the cause of it was. He just threw out statistics and then said, if these aren't the results of a fatherless home, what is it? Okay, that's easy to do. But tell us, okay, since it's such a problem and because you have so much information on it, what are you doing to combat it? He could not say. Now, right here, Van is about to completely destroy this nigga and get up about the paint. Watch this.
So I answer that question. I'll answer that question. To me, what influences any group of people, not black people, not white people, not our Hispanic brothers and sisters, be they Afro-Latino or white identifying Hispanics, what influences crime, destitution, and violence in any community is lack of access to life-affirming structures. Is family a part of that? Okay.
Out loud, man.
Well, can I finish? You asked me to answer it. Larry, we gotta go.
Far more
Larry,
it was far higher.
We gotta go. Are you gonna answer before we go? Before we go, you don't want to hear that. Before we go, are you gonna answer Rachel's question? Are you gonna answer Rachel's question? What have you done about fatherlessness? What have you done here?
You acknowledge that we have a problem with fatherlessness in the black community.
Larry, please answer. What have you done to combat fatherlessness?
I'm waiting for Rachel to answer my question.
No,
I've already answered that question.
So you want me to respond to a problem that you don't think exists?
It's okay.
Okay.
You don't
LarryElder.com. We really got to go. LarryElder.com. You have been very generous with your time, Larry. We appreciate you. One thing I will say about Larry Elder, and this interview has been very robust and feelings have been up there. That's how it's supposed to be in America. You should have conversations with people you disagree with. Larry Elder is always here for the argument. He's always here for the fight. He believes what he believes, and he'll go anywhere and talk about it. There are a lot of people on the right that wouldn't make the time to come in and sit down and have the conversation with us, but Larry Elder did. We do not agree with very much. We might actually think that our various ways of looking at things hurt the other side, but I do appreciate you making the time to talk to us. LarryElder.com. Thank you for joining us on Higher Learning.
Now, as you can see, this is the reason why I wanted to share this. Because this exchange cannot go unchecked. Larry Elder, while he talks about black leaders or bad leaders for black community, he is the worst of the worst to be somebody on the other side. a talking point, a black face for white supremacists and racist, bigoted, ignorant people to latch onto and to use what he's saying as a thing to combat black people when they talk about the things that they experience in real life. Imagine that. This is what's crazy to me, because you get a lot of people who try to argue with black people about things that go on in America, but you're arguing with people who did not face the same things you did coming up as a black person. So of course they're not going to know. Of course they're not going to understand. They're not going to relate. You are arguing with people who don't know, or people who know and don't give a shit. See, America has done such a good job at conditioning people to not care about what black people go through or the things black people face, that we have gotten to a point now where we think, or where people like Larry Elder feel like things that are actually actively happening right now in real time is false. It's just made up. It's the most, he's an agent for the other side. It's very clear. I could be like, yo, Larry Elder says a lot of wild shit, and he does this and he says that about black people, but his organizations that he's building for black kids who grow up in fatherless homes, or the donations he's giving to these inner city black kids who grow up. See, the thing is, you got these statistics. You got the statistics, right? You got the demographics, right? Why aren't you putting things in place to try to help these fatherless black children that you are afraid that are going to grow up with this victim mentality and cause crimes and do drugs and all this crazy shit? Why aren't you doing something to help that? Somebody who apparently feels so passionately about it doesn't seem to have the answer as to what they can do to help combat it, or if they've even participated in helping combat that problem. Larry Elder is a fraud, and just like them other people I named, he is a white man in blackface. And I stand by that. Now, with that said, GMS fam, the Green Room, this has been a very insightful show. I appreciate everybody that pulled up today. It has been very dope having y'all here in the comments section, in the chat. I'm about to get loose out in this motherfucker, man. Shout out to Van Lathan. Shout out to Rachel Lindsay. Shout out to the Higher Learning Podcast. You guys can go and watch that. Go subscribe. Go watch that whole interview in full. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. Follow me on my socials. I'll follow everybody back. We are still doing the GMS Fund, man. So if you guys want to donate to the GMS Fund, go ahead and hit that Cash App below. I would appreciate that, man. As always, put a GMS in the chat, man. I'm going to shout everybody out. Let's get it. See you, King Lukey. T-Fam in the building. Hey. One Fast Star in the building. I see you, Glittery Bubbles. The GMS fam is in here. So much respect, man. So much love, man. I appreciate y'all always pulling up from your respective cities. Oh yeah. Pray for Crazy Bone, man. A legend, man. They saying Crazy Bone is going through it right now, man. Having some medical issues. Went through his second surgery today, so make sure you pray for Crazy, man. Pray for the OG, man. Pray for the legend. We sending all the love and positive energy to Crazy and his family right now, man. Appreciate you, Lukey, for reminding me of that. Cannot let this show go past without saying that. Toke Champs, what up, man? It's all good. Hit that replay. GMS fam, the green room. It's been dope, man. I appreciate everybody that pulled up today. Like I said, do what you got to do, man. All that good shit. I'll see y'all later this week. Y'all have a safe and blessed rest of the night and the rest of the week. I'll see y'all later. GMS fam, the green room. We out.